Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Air Force HBCU MSI Outreach Initiative. Ask Me Anything Collider for November. This is our last and Ask Me Anything for 2023. So, welcome everyone, and so excited that you're here. And never fear if you have colleagues or friends that wanted to be here today. Just know that this Ask Me Anything is being recorded. And so we will have that recording and send that out to you uh, through our distribution list. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach us in the chat today. My name is Anissa Lumpkin, and I'm the founder of the Air Force HBCU MSI Outreach Initiative. So happy to have everyone here today. Welcome. We have a awesome lineup today of speakers that are really going to deep dive into their journey through the Cyber Sitter program, Cyber Sitter training, as well as their best practices for being successful and securing government funding through research and development. So, welcome everyone here today. If you're here and you're hearing some great information, please share information about this program. I'm going to quickly go ahead and get started. If you have any questions, please again put those in the chat. And then I also want to hear about who's here today. So if you're from a university or a small business, go ahead and put that in the chat so we can kind of get a gauge of who all is joining us today. The program again started in 2019. If we look back those 5 years, we discovered that we had very little to zero participation in proposals submitted with awards to small businesses that were partnering with HBCUs and MSIs. And so that program was established with initial goals to increase research and development funding, increase the number of university spinouts with HBCUs, increase those broader research funding resources with our Air Force Small Business Technology Transfer Program, through funded research programs, and reducing those barriers to entry by having those resources. Some of the outcomes and the initiatives that we've seen an impact, over $20 million has been reinvested back into small businesses and universities that partner with HBCUs and MSIs, going from a zero growth to 20 million. That's outstanding. That is showing that we are doing the outreach and resources that are needed to continue through the year. Our AFRL Minority Leaders Research Collaboration Program was initiated in 2005. One of those main initiatives is to garner participation from over 700 students to 200 professors to date. And they come and participate and learn at our Air Force Research Laboratories across our enterprise, and are able to share and learn those resources and take them back to the universities, as well as the areas that they're engaged in those unique laboratory facilities, and working with some of our world class experts and taking that and sharing that information. We're looking at full participation from our entire AFRL enterprise and expanding that program to offer throughout our Undersecretary of Defense to educate and continue to reach further. So, if you're interested in that, there's more information about our AFRL Minority Leaders Program, and you can go ahead and look at links for that. The next program that I wanted to highlight is our Air Force University Applied Research Consortium. And this is a national network research consortium that was awarding $90 million to Howard University. That program is run by program manager Mr. Tim Williams to lead, integrate, and deliver multidisciplinary research and development solutions in the areas of tactical autonomy. We want to accelerate autonomy, transform and transfer autonomy, and categorized in many different areas. So, not just that advanced research area, but also from K through 12 STEM, through undergraduate research, graduate research, all the way up to other various industry and partnerships that you have. So, there's a lot that can encompass there. And so, it's the University Applied Research Consortium's job to ensure that we are. are utilizing our HBCUs in that consortium, as well as other partnerships, to increase our technological advancements in the tactical autonomy areas. Um, our Department of Defense HBCU Minority Institutions program, which is led by our director, Mrs. Evelyn Kent. And so her program provides support and educate to educational assistance in the areas of defense related research, development, testing, and evaluation. Some of the current programs that are under her are Smart Scholarship programs. These are fully funded research and development programs for graduate students. We're talking programs that could be $30,000 to $50,000 that are awarded to our smart scholars for their research and development, and also come out with those advanced degrees as well in PhDs and other areas that they may be studying. Our Naval HBCU MI STEM Scholars Program, the Office of Naval Research has their Distinguished Faculty Fellows Program for your faculty members that are interested in those advanced research areas. We also have our Air Force Research Laboratory Program in the areas of HBCU and MI that is led by our Mr. Ed Lee. And then again, continuing to elevate, and one of our goals is to elevate the Carnegie Classification Elevation Program through a various grant fundings up to 800,000 for a 4-year period of performance. Recent accomplishments of the DoD HBCU MI program are conducting competition for R2 level HBCUs with the high potential for research activity, and continuing to obtain and to meet the areas to obtain research level 1 status, and organizations in that area. Continuing with our HBCU centers of excellence in biotechnology and material science, placing 52 interns at various Department of Defense laboratories, at least 10 laboratories across our Department of Defense. And then DoD agency plans to Congress and executive orders for White House initiatives that you have seen, I'm sure, a lot of there. One of the great events that we just had at Florida A&M University, we also had our Digital Literacy Summit last year at Central State University. But we've seen various engagement and activities from speakers, small businesses, universities. It was a hybrid event, so folks could join us online and see the various hours of content that was available to you. And I just want to highlight here at FAMU, we had an awesome time. Over 300 students in attendance, students and faculty, as well as our the leadership at FAMU. We just had an awesome time there. Beautiful campus. The students were engaging. The special thanks to our AFWorks program for coming in and doing one of their AFWorks design studies with the students. So very engaging program, and the Air Force looks forward to continuing to do outreach with HBCUs and MIs in the future. This initiative was established as a 4-year program in FY20, and the goal is to make it a program of record, establishing it as a Department of the Air Force HBCU MSI program. And so, in these last 4 years, we've seen such outstanding growth in both outreach and HBC involvement. And so, I don't want to go in and start naming all the organizations and names that have been involved with us over the last 4 years. So I'll just say thank you, and you know who you are, and I'll continue to reach out and say thank you to all of the partnerships that we have had in this program moving forward. I don't want to forget anybody, so I'll just say a general thank you to all of you that have participated in the program and made it what it is today. So I want to leave you with my contact information again. I am currently working in the Customer Engagement Directorate for the Air Force Research Laboratory, and that is my email address. So if you have any other issues or information that is needed, or a light bulb went off from the information that you hear today, please reach out to me, and I look forward to partnering with you. So today I wanted to Our partnership intermediary agreements is our national engagement. And you're going to hear today from APAX as part of Parallax Advanced Research. And they look at and work with HBCUs, minority institutions, tribal universities, small businesses to create state, regional, and city government orgs and maker spaces across our universities. And so the resources that are provided with no additional funding to you, but they're a great resource in areas of data analytics to training. So I really highly encourage you to utilize our PIAs for areas such as that. With that, I am going to stop sharing. So just to highlight today, what we're going to go through today, uh, we're going to have Dr. Kathleen Gilpin has over 20 years of experience at the Air Force Research Laboratory and the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory and in academic and military leadership. She is a Navy veteran and holds a PhD from the University of Maryland School of Medicine. After Dr. Gilpin speaks, we'll have some question and answer time with a short break after that. Then we'll have Dr. Doswell, who is the founder and owner of CEO of Joxtopia. And then after Dr. Doswell speaks, we'll have another Q&A and close it up from there. So again, thank you all for being here. And Dr. Gilpin, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here, and the goal is for many light bulbs to go off in everybody's heads for throughout the day. So I love that analogy, Anissa, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. We love working with Anissa's team, so everybody on the call, I can assure you that you are in excellent hands with Anissa and her whole team. So APEX is the Academic Partnership Engagement Experiment, and we are, like Anissa said, a partnership intermediary for the Department of the Air Force. So we are funded by the Air Force to do this work, and really the goal is to broaden the Department of the Air Force innovation ecosystem with the technologies that you have, perhaps in your lab, perhaps on your desk as an entrepreneur, to get them in the hands of the warfighter so that you can make their lives safer, easier, more efficient, whatever the case may be. So, this is actually me, not Chris Mather's background, but Anissa already covered that, so we are going to go right through that. Okay, we're going to start with a little bit of general information about the SBIR Sitter program, and then dive into the specifics of the Air Force program. And then at the very end, I'll give you a little bit of information about APEX and how you can join one of our cohorts if you think that we could be of help and service to you. So the SBIR Sitter program started in 1990, and it's a program run by the Small Business Administration. It's commonly nicknamed America's Seed Fund, and it's a really great opportunity for you to get some money for your company, some seed money and startup money, so that you can go on to be a big name and a household company name. Some of the companies that we know today, like that are household names, started through the SBIR Sitter program. So I'm sure you've heard of 23andMe, iRobot, Qualcomm, of course. These are all companies that initially got their start in the SBIR Sitter program. So it's a great opportunity for you, whether or not you are a small business or a university entrepreneur, because I do know we have some, a lot of HBCU participation here. And so the universities are eligible to participate through the STTR program, not the SBIR program, unless you have a spinout that's associated with your university. We'll get into all those details in a little bit. So from a high level overview, the SBIR agencies are any agency with over 100 million in extramural research budgets. And then these are some examples of the agencies that participate in the SBIR program. And I'm not going to read them all here, but you can look at them. And then the military is off to the right. So of the four main services. And I only say four because the Space Force is a part of the Department of the Air Force, and the Marine Corps is a part of the Department of the Navy. So of the Air Force, Navy, and Army, uh, I should have said three services. I can't even count today. The Air Force is the largest. So it's great that you're here today to learn about the Air Force program because it has the most robust SIPRS program out of all the services. Okay, so STTR, this is really where the universities come to play. And the agencies that participate in the STTR program are any agency with over 1 billion in extramural research budgets. So these are usually larger agencies with obviously a larger research budget. And so we'll see the comparison to the SBIR slide has far fewer agencies that participate in the STTR program. The Air Force is still the largest. That's not to say that your chances of getting an STTR are smaller just because there are fewer agencies that participate. I think actually probably the contrary is true because there are some requirements that are mandatory for an STTR program. And it can be difficult to meet those requirements. So there are fewer applicants in general. Now, this should all be said that it varies from solicitation to solicitation. So what I'm saying now it doesn't automatically translate to every single solicitation, but I'm just saying if I'm painting with a broad brush, that's probably true. So what are the differences between an STTR and SBIR? I already mentioned that the STTR requires the university participation. And since the university is participating in the award, in the program, in the research that's being done, 30% of the post-profit award must go to the university. So this is a great opportunity for a graduate student or a postdoc to bring money into the university. That would help their resume. They could add that to their CV, and it would help you as the PI or the university, tech transfer office, and all the different organizations that are represented through that. So it's a really great opportunity, and we find that the small businesses reach out to university partners for a few main reasons. The first one being that the university has access to very large or very expensive pieces of equipment that a small business just does not have access to. So that's probably the number one reason we see small businesses reach out. Oftentimes they need access to a wind tunnel to do testing, or they need access to an X-ray crystallography machine that a small business isn't going to have, but it truly is the bread and butter of a university with their core facilities. The second reason we see is that the small business wants high throughput testing at a relatively cheap cost. And so again, this is where grad students or postdocs could come into play here. And then the third reason we see small businesses reach out to universities is if they have a theoretical problem that they probably could solve, but it might take them a month, a year, whatever the case may be. And the university researcher who has been spending decades of his or her life studying that one problem could answer it in a few minutes or a week or a month, at a much smaller time frame than the small business would trying to figure it out, because the small business can be focused on a lot of different things when it comes to commercializing technology, and the university professors are absolutely pulled in 1,000 different directions as well. But if the small business has a question that just happens to fit their expertise perfectly, then they can solve that problem pretty quickly for the small business. So those are the top three reasons we see small businesses reach out to universities. And then, so I already mentioned that every solicitation is different, and you must read the solicitation very carefully each time a new one comes out, because they will make small changes that if you don't read it word for word, you will likely miss. And then every agency is different. So I'm going to focus a lot on the Air Force, and there is a lot of similarity with the Air Force compared to the Navy and the Army. However, it is not the same, and you must read every solicitation. Okay, so now we're going to get into the Department of the Air Force, SBIR, STTR program. So, like I said, it is run by the Small Business Administration, and you see those, through the Department of Defense, and you see the three services. I do want to mention that there is something called the Fourth Estate within the Department of Defense, and these are agencies that are affiliated with the Department of Defense, but are not a military service. So down here we have examples of DARPA or Defense Health Agency, Defense Logistics Agency, DLA, but also the Missile Defense Agency, and all of these organizations that are affiliated with the Department of Defense, but are not a military service. So if you think your technology is going to be a good fit for the Air Force, there is a very high likelihood that it will be applicable to a different service or to an agency within this fourth estate. So if you apply for an Air Force SBIR or STTR and you don't get it, you can of course reapply, but also you can broaden your horizons to other agencies as well, because there's a lot of overlap amongst the agencies, and there's a good chance your technology would be a good fit for some other agency as well. Okay, so what makes the AFWERX and SpaceWorks organizations so different? They really have changed the paradigm entirely for the SBIR STTR program in a good way. So before, all the agencies in every SBIR STTR would put out specific topics, and they would be very narrow and tailored to a problem that the service or the agency needed to solve in a quick timeline. But the AFWERX and started this, and SpaceWorks has adopted this philosophy too, that there is an abundance of good technology that the American public is developing, and that could be of use to the military and the Air Force specifically, and the Space Force after they came online too. So they're making it much more venture capital-like. And by that, I mean, instead of telling you, the university professor or, a small business associated with the HBCU, instead of telling you, I need this problem solved, they say instead, what solution do you have that could solve a problem I might have? So it's flipping the coin on its head, essentially. And in this way, they are able to do much faster contracting, and they want to do smaller and more numerous awards. So this is to your benefit because, obviously the chance of winning a smaller, more numerous awards is better than larger, less numerous awards. And so we have found this to be, a game changer, but also everybody seems to love the AFWERX process. In terms of the likelihood of winning having their proposal funded. And so these are on the right, you'll just see a few of the questions that the Air Force is asking, instead of telling you exactly what you need to do. It's much more open-ended, gives you a little more flexibility and creativity to come up with a technology or how to apply your technology to an Air Force problem. So to go over the specifics of the proposals, these are usually true, but like I have mentioned already, and is in bold and red here, you must read the solicitation because things can and often do change. Now, the general standard across AFWERX is the following. For open topics, they are just that, they're open. You can propose any technology to the Air Force as long as you are able to convince them that you are solving a Department of the Air Force need. And the typical communication vehicle, the way you would get your idea across to the Air Force, is a 25 slide deck. So not that much of a heavy lift. You do have to do a little bit of pre-work in terms of getting your story ready and doing some customer discovery if you can, but it's a relatively light lift. And I'm sure a lot of you already have these slide decks or slides prepared that you can pull into one, slide deck for the purposes of your proposal. So that's for the phase one. And then the direct to phase two, or the phase two, is usually a 15-page white paper. Again, you guys are academics. I have no doubt you can write a 15-page white paper in a matter of a few days, and then you can take some time to review it and revise it. But um, you know, this is probably not that heavy of a lift for you as an academic who do this on a daily basis. These awards are usually smaller, but more numerous, and the for the phase one, and then the direct to phase two and phase two can be up to 1.25 million. So that money goes to the small business, but the university gets 30% of that money. And I have a graphic and a few slides that will show you how much money you get as the university. And it is not a small sum of change. It is a substantial amount of money. And if we go back to the grad students or the postdocs, this is a fantastic way for them to bring in a large chunk of change for the university and your lab. And obviously would be good for you as well as the PI. You can put that on your CV as well. So then for the specific topics, they are a little more narrow, like I said. They usually are very tailored to a specific technology or a specific focus area. But their typical communication vehicle is a 10 to 25 page white paper. I know that's kind of a large range. It just depends on the solicitation and the specific topic, what they are looking for, and how detailed they want you to be. The phase one is usually 250K, and then the direct to phase two and the phase two ranges from 1 million to 1.5 million. So the direct to phase two definitely is where more money is, able to be accessed. But the phase one to the phase two is the standard approach that most people take to get into the Department of the Air Force innovation ecosystem. I do want to mention the selection criteria down at the bottom in the second banner. You must solve a Department of the Air Force problem. Even if your technology is commercialized in the civilian world and you're doing great things with it, if the problem you're solving in the civilian world doesn't translate to the military, you have to find a way to be flexible and adjust your technology to fit a Department of the Air Force problem. So one of the common ways to do that is through operational imperatives, and we'll get to that in a little bit. The technical merit, of course, must be solid. This is not any different from your typical proposals to NIH or NSF. You must have technical merit. The one thing I will mention is one difference between the Department of the Air Force and a proposal source like NIH or NSF is that you don't need as much background research for the Department of the Air Force. They will award you a phase one, and they will pay you for 3 months of work to do customer discovery, where you can go find the organization within the Air Force that is the appropriate organization to get in contact with, and then hopefully they'll sign a customer memorandum, which is not having them in any way sign that they will agree to give you resources. They're not going to give you time. They're not going to give you money. They're not going to give you people. I mean, they could give you those things, but this customer memorandum does not guarantee that they will give that to you. It really is just a signature that says from your customer, I am interested to see this technology continue to be funded by the Department of the Air Force. And you'd like to see it, get into the hands of the warfighter. That's really what the customer memorandum is. It is required for phase two. But the purpose of the phase one is to do that customer discovery and a small feasibility study. Phase two is where you must build a prototype or develop a deliverable, a widget, a gadget, whatever it is, to actually be tested and handed over to the Air Force for their inspection and analysis and things like that. So that's the direct to phase two. So I wanted to touch on that when I talked about technical merit, to make sure you knew that the difference between the two. But both of them still need, obviously, to have the technical merit be rock solid. And then the third selection criteria is your ability to commercialize. So if you are already commercializing your technology, that's great. Clearly, you have the capability to commercialize, and you can just write about what you've done to commercialize your technology in the civilian world. because they want dual use technology. So if you do something in the civilian world, you can use that when it comes to applying it to the military. And then if you already are commercializing, a good spot for you to start might be the phase two, because that's much more of an applied research level. The phase one is a little bit more basic research level when you're doing the feasibility study. So in academic, terms, you can think of it as basic research and applied research. Okay, so I already mentioned a little bit about the phased program. I mentioned phase one and phase two. What I want to talk about in this slide is the phase two plus. They're often called funding enhancements. And this is the TACFI and STRATFI. So TACFI stands for Tactical Funding Increase. STRATFI stands for Strategic Funding Increase. The TACFI, therefore, since it's tactical, is a little lower level than the STRATFI. The STRATFI can go up to $14 or $15 million. TACFI is usually in the range of $1 to $2 million, but could be even just a couple $100,000. But still, this is great money for that one more thing that you must do to make your prototype workable, or to have a minimal viable product. This is a great opportunity. These awards are very few and far between. So you do have to, it does take a lot of work to get them. But if you get them, I mean, if you get a STRATFI, it's worth $14 million. That's a huge increase to your research budget, and you can do a lot more to develop your prototype and your demonstration. So then phase three, this is the goal of everybody, of most entrepreneurs, whether you're from a university or a small business. This allows you at the phase three stage, you're probably looking to sell or license your technology to the government, which will probably give you a long-term contract, which is fantastic. It should be music to your ears as an entrepreneur to have a long-term contract with the government. And this is not easy to do. There's a valley of death, as we affectionately call it, that you have to cross in order to get from phase two to phase three. But Apex can help you with that, which I'll show you in later slides. And there's lots of other opportunities to help you as well. Every state has some free resources that you can use to you can take advantage of to help cross this valley of death. And there are federal and state programs as well that they're called FAST programs, and they are also designed entirely to help you cross the valley of death. So there are some free resources available to you. It can be difficult, but the reward is great if you can make it across there. Okay, so these are a few selected DAF technology areas of interest. So if you are working on one of these, then I think you would have a clear connection to the Air Force and could pretty easily solve a Department of the Air Force problem, or at least find a problem that you could solve. And some of these are, what you would expect, right? Hypersonics is the number one technology across the Department of Defense. Everybody's looking for hypersonic technology. Quantum science, of course, is up and coming. Microelectronics, we need microelectronics built in the United States for upcoming, potential cyber wars, and we don't want to give our adversary any information through microelectronics. So all of those things should be pretty recognizable to you. The ones down at the bottom can be a little bit can catch people off guard sometimes, because the Air Force is interested in biomedical research. They're interested in human performance. They have an entire human performance wing underneath AFRL to test human performance, and it's a really world-class organization there. But base management as well, right? The AFWERX funded early in their early days a pothole fixing technology for their runways. And so the reason I'm bringing this up is, for the open topic, you should feel empowered to be creative with your technology. And if your technology can fit, any of these areas of interest, but really anything you can convey effectively to the Department of the Air Force stakeholder as to why they need it, or why they should be at least looking at this technology, is good and will play in your favor. Okay, then this is the DAF solicitation guidance. So they put this on their AFWorks website, and they do a great job of keeping it updated. They have done a good job of letting you know when to expect the next release of the call for proposals. So right now we are in the fall direct to phase 2 cycle at the bottom of this chart. So it's open now. It's going to close in November. Oh, so actually, let me rephrase because they have January 25 here. So they have updated this, and we are not in the bottom. We are in the top, the second one from the top, the fall direct to phase 2. And so, yes, it just opened at the end of October, and it will be due on the 22nd, the day before Thanksgiving. And then they expect to contract them, be on, on contract and award those in January, towards the end of January 2024. So they are exceptionally good at doing quick turnarounds when it comes to contracting. Not everybody gets a 60-day turnaround, but they certainly strive very hard and very diligently to make that happen for everybody. All of the awardees, they want to be on contract in 60 days. So, and then the next one that's available, this is the reason I put this chart in here, is for you, the next one that's available you probably want to consider is the one that's coming up in February 2024. This will be an open topic, we think, and it will be released at the end of January, and then we'll close at the end of February, early March. They used to allow 6 weeks, sometimes 8 weeks for this turnaround from when it opened to when the proposals were due. They've really tightened that timeline now to be, on average, 4 weeks is what we've seen in the recent solicitations. So the more work you can do early on and in preparation, so starting right now, the better off you'll be when it comes to the release time. Because one, you'll be ahead of your competitors, which is always a good thing. And two, you won't be cramming in as many things to do in that short 4-week period of time, as compared with if you started a little earlier and got knocked out a few of the requirements. And we're going to go over the requirements shortly. So. Okay, so this seems like a good spot to stop. If there are any questions in the chat that I haven't seen or I've missed, feel free to ask them now. Okay.
We don't have any questions in the chat, but if anybody wants to come off of mute, if you have any questions, feel free.
Okay, that's okay, no problem. We'll have a Q&A section at the end too. So no problem. I will just keep talking, but if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll answer them as we go along. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about what you can do right now to prepare for the phase 1 SBIR and STTR. Okay, one of the most important things to know is this hierarchy of engagement. So in order to, if you are awarded a phase 1, or if you, so yeah, let me rephrase. If you're, let me start again. If you're awarded a phase 1, that's fantastic. Really good news for you and your company. And the goal is to do a small feasibility study, but then to do customer discovery. And this is where this hierarchy of engagement comes in. If you are trying to go for a direct to phase 2, or you're doing a follow-on phase 2, then you have to get this customer memorandum. Also, this hierarchy of engagement is very crucial for you too. So we're going to start at the bottom. Having a large organization, getting in contact with a large organization is good. You could say, I've reached out to the 7-Eleventh Human Performance Wing, or, I have established contact with PEO Fighters and Bombers, or whatever. Whatever the large organization is, that is really good, a step in the right direction. If you can get under, to like a sub-organization or a smaller group of people, a subset of that large organization, that's even better. A small group, obviously, if you have an identified individual, you don't necessarily have to connect with them immediately. You could just say, I did a LinkedIn search. I found this person works when this, in this directorate, and this is exactly that they're doing the research that I need to be partnered with. That's good. If you can connect with them, that's even better. If they're willing to give you a quote or some support in any way besides the customer memorandum, that's great. Then if you can get somebody who's willing to sign the customer memorandum, that is the gold standard. That is what everybody's trying to get. And it can be difficult because you can't just pick up the phone and call the Air Force. It does take a little bit of work and customer discovery. But that's what the Air Force is paying you to do for 3 months in the phase one. And so sometimes when the university is part of the SBIR STTR program for the phase one, oftentimes that can be something that a university can do, especially a grad student or a postdoc. They can do that, that market research and for lack of a better term, to figure out what organizations exist in the Air Force, how can we contact them, and is this the right individual that we should be talking to? So I'll give you a few ideas in the future for how to contact these people, because it is a little bit challenging. It can be daunting for some companies and university researchers, but it's nothing that cannot be overcome. And we have lots of companies and university professors who do this. As a university professor, you are not going to be as involved with reaching out to these organizations. It really is, that's more of the job for the small business that you're partnered with, because the money has to go to the small business. And the university is a subcontractor, essentially, to that small business. So it's great. You're bringing money in, you're doing research, you are helping mankind. All of that is fantastic. But the money, directly goes to the small business at first. So reaching out to these organizations is much more of a small business job as compared with universities. University professors certainly can be involved with those calls, and they might know somebody. They might have already done research with these organizations. All that's fantastic. I'm not saying you can't help at all. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying typically we see small businesses take the lead in finding these organizations and reaching out to them. Okay. All right, so these are some of the ways that you can find those people. All right, Air Force Tech Connect is a huge resource for you. I actually have a whole slide dedicated to it towards the end, so you can write down, if you missed it here, you can write it down at the end. This is a fantastic organization, and well, it's not really an organization per se, but it's a website that you can go to. It is character limited, so you can't write a book, but you can put in your technology and your areas of expertise, and they will triage all of these inputs on the back end and send it to the right point of contact in the Air Force. This is hugely valuable. I cannot overstate this enough. If you are interested in partnering with an organization within the Air Force for the purposes of STTR, your very first step should be go to Air Force Tech Connect. This works for the Space Force as well. So definitely check them out. They are really good people on the back end who are doing all this. And even if they don't get it 100% right all of the time, they will put you in contact with somebody who is close enough to the right point of contact that he or she can then forward you on to the right point of contact. Now that I've talked up this awesome service for you, I do want to, bring you down to earth a little bit. It's not a guarantee that you will get a response here. Most of the time they do, and we've seen a really good effort from the Department of Air Force stakeholders and the individuals to respond. But it's not a guarantee. Some people just don't respond, or they maybe it's not a good fit and they just, don't respond. So take that with a grain of salt, right? Definitely try it. It is 100% worth your time. But there's a small chance you might not get a response, but that's okay. You can either try again. What I've seen be successful is if you do this research and figure out a name or the organization that you want to be contacted or you want to be connected with, then it makes their triage job a little easier, and they're more likely to to be able to connect you to that right person. So if they have to go back and say, oh, I think this is a good fit for the Civil Engineering Center, or this is a good fit for the Life Cycle Management Center, they it just takes a little more work and it'll be a little more delayed. Whereas if you do your own work and say, I have this technology, this is what I can do for the Air Force, this is the problem I'm solving, and I think this fits in with this directorate, then they'll say, oh, this is easy. We'll just connect you to this directorate. So definitely do a little bit of, your homework. Because I think it'll, pay dividends in the end for you. Then you can look up in, magazines and trade journals. You can look up, you can use Google or LinkedIn. All these things are great ways to find the right people in the Air Force. I will say, if you're doing research with the Army or the Navy or any other agency, you should feel free to use your network. Reach out to them and say, hey, I know I'm doing work with you. Do you know your counterpart in the Air Force? And I mean, probably 7 out of 10 times they will. They will meet them at meetings, they'll go to conferences, they will just connect in normal ways over email or phone or whatever. So they probably will know, and that'll be a great opportunity for you to get your foot in the door for the Air Force as well. So all of these are great ways to try to find the right customer within the Air Force. So take advantage of them. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the direct to phase 2 information. I'm just going to quickly check chat, see if we have any questions. No. Okay, no problem. Okay, so what can you do now to prepare for the direct to phase 2? Well, now my arrow button is not working. Let's see here. Let me, actually, nothing is working. I can't even escape. Oh, there we go. Okay, good. All right. So now let me go back here and see if this will work again. All right, there we go. Fixed it. Okay, so the customer memorandum is paramount. Absolutely. You cannot do anything without the customer memorandum when it comes to direct to phase 2. You cannot even apply. So you must get this direct to phase 2, or you must get this customer memorandum before you're even eligible to apply for the award. Now, it is difficult. This is a case of you emailing or reaching out on LinkedIn or picking up the phone, and if you're lucky enough to find a phone number, and calling, trying to get in contact with 100 people to have one person respond to you. So it does take a lot of work. It takes a little bit of time. You have to build a trust relationship. People in the military in general are a little bit skittish to talk to civilian companies, right? So that's not true across the board, but it is. I suspect you'll find that to be the case more often than not. And so you have to build the trust relationship, which can take time. So you should start this now if you're interested in doing the direct to phase 2. And even if you don't get it for the next solicitation, that's okay. The good news is that the Air Force does these in cycles, like I showed you with that schematic of when the next, when the expected releases are going to take place probably. So you can just get the next one if you don't get it for this upcoming one, which is fine. And it might even stand you in even better stead if you have a developed relationship and you've been working with somebody, the stakeholder, for 6 months, as compared with somebody who just gets the customer to sign it in a matter of weeks. I mean, I think that's pretty lucky and unlikely. But you would have probably a little bit of an advantage anyway, having developed this trust relationship. So definitely make sure that you're working this as early as you can. And you want to really convince the stakeholders that you are bringing benefit to them. So you have to learn about them. You have to speak their language in terms that they understand, to say, oh yes, this is a benefit that I can't live without. That's the best case scenario, and would lead you to getting that customer memorandum. So I already mentioned this, but this is worth repeating because oftentimes you will have to explain to the customers what the customer memorandum is. It's often a term that they've never heard of before. They've never seen this document. AFWERX does a really great job of giving you a template. So you have to fill in the template, and there are 3 signatures required. And so you are probably going to have to explain what it is to each of these 3 signatures. There's a customer, an end user, and a technical point of contact. So, if the more you know about the customer memorandum, the better off you will be. Because if you ask a customer to sign it and they don't know what it is, the typical response will be, let's get the lawyers to review it, and let's get JAG, which, in the military is called the JAG Corps. So we have to get the JAG Corps to review it. And once it gets to the JAG Corps, your chance of getting that document back into your hands in the time that you need it is essentially zero. I mean, it can be done, but it's just not. You should not bank on that at all. So the more you can explain what the document is to the person who's going to sign it, the better off you'll be by far. And so one of the things I want to just reiterate, I've said this before, but this bears repeating. This document does not in any way have the customer agree to providing you any kind of resources, whether that be time, money, or people. They are not agreeing to that at all. And this is actually, you can find this, this language is put out by AFWERX as well, because we do find that there's a lot of people who struggle getting the customer memorandum signed for this reason, because people are afraid of it. They don't know what it is. They may not think they have the authority to sign it. In the military, we're big on like who has the authority to sign or who has the authority to agree to these things. And your customer is probably not it. Maybe you're talking to an 06, a colonel, or an 05, a lieutenant colonel, right? And they probably don't have the authority to sign these types of papers. That would be in the contract shop, or but they so that's what they think. But they can sign this paper because they're not agreeing to anything. So and this language, again, is on the AFWERX website too. So you can pull it verbatim from them. They even have a letter that's signed by AFWERX that explains what the customer memorandum is, because they found that this was such a big problem, and it was causing a hindrance to getting the proposals through the system. So that's what the customer memorandum is. It's absolutely mandatory for the Director Phase 2, and you cannot propose without it. Okay, so for STTRs, since a lot of you are HBCU university professors, I wanted to highlight a few of the things that you should do for an STTR. Okay, so hopefully your university has a really good research administration office who can move things through in a timely manner. I will say that probably most of you don't. It takes a lot of red tape cutting to get documents through research administration, if I'm painting with a broad brush again. So hopefully that's not true for your specific university. But if it is true, then you should start early to get these documents in place so that you are already ready to go. So you might not be able to have the final document in place, but you could have a template that's already approved through the vice president of research, or maybe the tech transfer office has a say in it too. So you could have a template ready to go, approved, and then when you need it in the coming months, you can just fill in the specifics, but the research administration will have already seen the document. They will know what it is. It's not going to take as long to review it, and you'll be off and running to the races to propose an STTR. So that's one. So that's one thing to do. And then you'll need 2 documents though. So the template, so you should probably create 2 templates, one for the teaming agreement and one for the allocation of rights. These are, so like I said, the university must partner with a small business, and small business, the teaming agreement says just that, right? That you agree to partner with each other, and it's up to you, really. and in the partnership. The Air Force doesn't mandate anything about what goes into the teaming agreement. Oftentimes people will spell out exact duties that the university must perform and that the company is responsible for, but other partnerships are a little more fluid and trusting, and they just assign this a document that says we agree to work with each other, and they leave all the details out, and they will figure that out as they go along. It's up to you, whatever you're comfortable with, and whatever the company's comfortable with, you're totally fine doing. But it does help to get some kind of template, you know, written down so that you can have it readily available for you, and the research administration has already seen it. Now, the allocation of rights, this ought to be a little more specific, because you're dealing with IP, right? The company has IP, the universities have IP, of course. Universities are very, very particular about what IP they will release and what IP they cannot, and they want to keep essentially all IP very close hold until they are sure that it's in a safe environment to release that IP. Because that's how the universities make money, right? So, so the companies are also a little bit close hold, right? They have put in oftentimes their life savings, or they've self-funded their company for a period of time before they were able to get commercial money. And so they are, living and dying by their technology. They also don't want to give up their IP rights. So the allocation of rights is just that. Whatever was developed at the university stays with the university. Whatever is developed by the company stays with the company. And there's no cross between. So the company is not, you're not giving up your IP to the company, and the company is not giving up their IP to the university. And that is very important for everybody involved. So it's very useful and to your great benefit to take time and care in detailing those allocation of rights. And if you had a template for what, what you've done in your lab, your IP. If you have a template are already ready for that, for the allocation of rights, I think that would be good. And it doesn't have to be a formal template either. It could just be like a paragraph that you've already written, you've thought about, to make sure you don't forget anything and you've really encompassed all of your IP. So I already talked a little bit about the phase 1 open topic. Using the students is great. The feasibility study is required. And then the direct to phase 2 we just talked about. So I will mention, though, when it says effective use of grad students and postdocs for the direct to phase 2, this is true because as a university professor, right, everybody should be aware that there are postdocs and grad students who are seeking the PhD or, even a master's degree, and they know they don't want to be a tenure track professor for the rest of their life. It's just not in the cards for them, or it's not what they want to do. They want to be more entrepreneurial, or they want to go into industry. So this is a really great use for those types of students, because it just will, broaden their exposure to their future career path, and that only benefits them and the future career job opportunities. So I wanted to call that out I wanted to call that out specifically for the direct phase 2. Talking too fast here. Okay, so now we are getting into one of the other huge advantages to the Department of the Air Force program. They have made significant changes to the open topic, and it is to your benefit at the university. So the phase 1 award, they've raised it. They used to be $75K. Now it's $110K. And I'll show you why that's so important in the next slide. And then the phase 2 award was raised from 1.25 million to 1.8 million. Now, they did not raise the limits for the SBIR. So they have said many, many times in many public forums and written on their websites that they really want to see an increase in university participation, because the universities are the ones that are doing this basic research that eventually is going to turn into applied research, which eventually is going to turn into the new weapon system or the new and improved, grappling hook that can withstand larger body weights, or whatever it is, right? I'm clearly making that up. But whatever the technology is, they want to see university involvement because you guys are at the forefront of basic research and honestly, really at the forefront of applied research, certainly in your engineering schools. And so using that to, develop getting in at the ground level, so to speak, and being able to help you develop your technology as you continue to do research on it, will benefit the Air Force and the military in general. So that's why they really want to essentially subsidize the university or the research institute STTR portion. So they also changed what I was just talking about, the allocation of rights agreement, and it used to be required at the time of proposal. So people were always scrambling to get this done. But now they have removed that requirement at the time of proposal and made it required before contracting. So you essentially get an extra 1 to 2 months, sometimes in some cases 3 months. You don't want to dilly-dally on this, though. You definitely want to make sure that you are getting it done. But it is required at the time of contracting, not at the time of when you submit your proposal. And then the teaming requirement is not required anymore for STTR, but we certainly recommend you get that because it can head off a few disputes or anything that could come up as you go along as you're teaming with your company. So okay, so this is the money slide, so to speak. And I want to actually, I think I even have a red circle there or a blue circle there. To show you that for the STTR, for the phase 1, you'll get 31K, and the phase 2 STTR, you get 500K. And these are in the pink boxes here. When you compare them to the blue boxes on the left, you'll see a dramatic increase. So at the bottom of the box, it has the total 30% that goes to you, right? And from 21K in the pre-change phase 1 to now the current phase 1, you get an extra 10K. And then for the phase 2, before you only got 352K, which was still a good amount of money. But now you get $508,000 for the phase 2 to do the work. So really great opportunity for universities. And you should take this as a sign that the Air Force is saying, we want university participation. We've increased this money only for the STTR, not for the SBIR. So the money is the same for the companies who are only doing the SBIR. If a company is partnering with a university and is doing an STTR, the university gets a lot more money. They've also made it, much more advantageous for the small business as well. So all this is to say, this should be your sign to try to get involved with this program because it's a great program to be involved with. And the Air Force has taken away one of the largest barriers to participation, which was financial compensation. 352K is good. It's good. But, I know that university professors are putting in proposals for a lot more than that on a regular basis. So this is, this should be good news to you. And then the phase 1, 21K for university, like what is that going to fund? It's not even going to fund a grad student probably. So this is good news for the universities all around. Okay. So I see a question in the chat. Let me get that. It's just a comment for Chris Mather. Okay, great. Chris Mather is my colleague, very, very knowledgeable, and he's the one who put that slide together, so he is great. So definitely feel free to ask him questions in the chat as well. Okay, so I put this slide together for universities specifically because these are some of the common questions we hear from universities. The first one, hands down, is about foreign citizens. Can a foreign citizen PI or a grad student or somebody from the company, can they participate in this program? And the answer is yes, with some caveats. So you must disclose any foreign citizens that are working on your project. This includes dual citizenship holders. So you absolutely must disclose them. If you don't disclose it and you're found out later, that's a terrible day for you. You're going to be in a lot of trouble. So it is definitely in your best interest to disclose them, just be upfront about them from the very beginning. Now, the chance of winning a phase one award with a foreign national is relatively decent, right? It's really not 100%, but we have had awards that have had foreign nationals on them for the phase one. The phase two, it is a little bit harder because you're getting into more of the technical aspects of whatever projects you're doing. And there is in certain technological areas of interest, it has the potential to maybe morph into something that's a little bit classified, in which case the foreign nationals could not do that at all. So it is a little bit more up in the air if you're going to be awarded the phase two. For the phase one, you have a better chance of doing that, but it's not 100% by any means. And obviously, there are countries that are friendlier to the United States than some other countries. So just kind of keep that all in the back of your head. So it's not undoable. It definitely can be done, but it's not a very common thing either. So take that with a grain of salt, and do with that what you will. If you have key people who you need on your team, then I would suggest proposing with them and putting some caveats in there. Especially if they're a foreign citizen. Some other countries don't allow you to renounce your citizenship. So if that's the case, then you could explain that. You could say that this person is a citizen of the United States, and the other country, just does not permit renunciation of the citizenship. So you can try to be a little bit creative in figuring out ways to mitigate that risk, but you must be just upfront from the get-go about that kind of thing. And all of the work must be done in the United States. So there's no question about that. If you have a foreign entity, maybe you're collaborating with a university in Germany or Australia or France or Italy or whatever, England, that's great. That's fine. But the work must be performed in the United States. So you have to keep that in mind as well. Then for spinouts, this is applicable to universities or university professors or anybody from a university that has started their own business. You're probably likely involved with the tech transfer office that can definitely advise you on spinouts, how to start the business, all of the different registrations you need to start the business. But spinouts are really good for this SBIR STTR program because you have a built-in relationship with that university. So where other companies are trying to find a university that they want to be involved with, that is, doing research that they're involved in, and could be a good partner, going forward with the SIPR program, then you already have a huge leg up because you have the university partner already. It's not to say that you couldn't partner with a different university. You certainly can, but you already have that built-in relationship. And if the university is good at supporting you, then that's a fantastic opportunity for you to do an STTR, get more money, and do both, right? Continue your business, but also continue doing research at the university. And so the one thing that is a caveat here that trips up a lot of people is that the principal investigator must be employed with a small business firm at the time of the award. So this means more than one half of the principal investigator's time must be spent at the small business. So let's make sure we're not confusing the principal investigator in terms of a university with the principal investigator in terms of the SBIR STTR program. The the university PI is, you know, what everybody dreams of being, right? And you are directing research in your lab. You don't have to, just because you're a principal investigator at the university does not mean you have to be the principal investigator at the company. You could have a grad student or a postdoc who's interested in running the company be the principal investigator, and they could spend 40% of their time running the business. I mean, at a minimum, at least 40% of their time, and then they could do research in the lab for the rest of the 60% of the time. So if you, as the university professor, are too busy and you don't have time to start a business, or you don't have time to run the business, or you don't want to commercial, you're not really that interested in running the business, all that is totally fine. We run into this all the time, and you could assign somebody else to be the principal investigator. So, and then just to reiterate, grad students and postdocs are good resources. So, yes. So let's go to the next slide then. Oh, shoot. I did the same thing. I went to the chat and now it's not working. So just give me 1 second. I have to escape from here. It's not working either. Okay. I think it just, oh, there we go. I think it just needs a time to get out of that. Okay, so note to self, do not go to the chat. I will make time to visit the chat and see if there's any questions there. So, okay, great. All right, so useful sites. So before we get into there, let me check let me do a time check here. Okay, so I've been talking for about an hour. So if anybody has any questions up to this point, feel free to come off mute and let me know before I get into the last few slides of the presentation. Okay.
I'm checking the chat here. I don't see anything right now.
Okay. No problem. We will have the Q&A at the end. So, all right. So some useful sites that you should start familiarizing yourself with if you don't already know them. The first one is DCIP. It's Defense Cybersitter Innovation Portal. And this will be your everything when it comes to proposing. This site is where you actually upload your proposal, and you can go in and you have to upload the cost volume, and there's many things you have to do through the DCIP website in order to have your proposal successfully updated to be reviewed. So definitely start looking around this. You have to log in and register. And then this is also where you'll see the announcements for the upcoming, for these solicitations that are open, and then also past solicitations as well. So you can see if there's a topic that, just closed or something like that. Very useful information on this website, and you should register pretty much really as soon as possible if you're interested in the SBIR CTR program, which I'm assuming you are if you're on this call. So AFWERX. AFWERX is a fantastic organization who does a really good job of keeping their website up to date. And also, one of the things I think you'll find most useful on their website is a repository of past Ask Me Anythings. So they hold it's weekly. It's not every week guaranteed. Sometimes they'll skip a week, or sometimes there's not an open solicitation, so that they don't need to have it. But they do weekly webinars, and they'll give out a lot of good information. They'll go over some changes that happen from solicitation to solicitation. But really, it's a time for you to ask them questions. And this can be very valuable to you, because after the solicitation officially opens, usually they'll do like a little pre-release period, and then they'll officially open it. And once it officially opens, the government personnel cannot talk to individual applicants anymore. They must do it in an open forum, at a public forum. So these Ask Me many things are your way to talk to the government personnel because they cannot talk to you individually anymore. So it's all on the AFWERX website, and you can listen to some past ones and you'll get the schedule for the upcoming ones. Great, great resource for anybody interested in applying. Okay, so SBIR.gov is another great resource. They do online tutorials that are very short, usually. Like I'm talking 5 minutes, some of them are 2 or 3 minutes, and they go over exactly what you want to know. So if you have a question and you don't want to know about the history of the SBIR program like I just gave you, you just have one specific question you need an answer to, SBIR.gov is a really great resource for you to check out first. They don't have a ton of specifics about the services, like the Air Force, the Navy, or each of the agencies do things a little differently. But if you have an overarching question about the SBIR program or STTR program, then this is a great resource for you to go to. Also, on this website, you can do a search for past awardees. So this is another way for you to get connected. If you're doing some customer discovery and if you've discover that somebody has done this before, or they were awarded for a technology or a project very similar to yours, you can reach out to them, or try to reach out to them anyway, and see if they want to partner or get some lessons learned from them. If they're partnering with a university, that you already know that university is interested in this work. So just another customer discovery research tool for you. Okay, this is the APEX website. I think this should be very valuable to you too, because there are ways to sign up for our cohorts. And I'll get into a few details about the APEX program in a little bit, but for right now, suffice it to say, this section of the website is where you can sign up for the cohorts. And in the cohorts, we'll go over various things that I'm going to talk about when I get to the APEX section, but this is where you can sign up for it. All of our services are free because we are funded by the Department of the Air Force to do this. So if you think you're interested in applying for the SBIR STTR program and think we could help you through reviewing your proposal, through helping you, kind of pointing in the right direction for which organizations in the Air Force you should be talking to, then please reach out to us and we would be happy to help you. Whether or not you're doing phase 1, phase 2, or if you've already accomplished a phase 2 and you're trying to get into the phase 3 where you're licensing or selling your technology to the Air Force, we can help with all of the phases. Okay, so we have a team of 10 process navigation consultants who are absolutely fantastic resources for you. So Chris Mather, the guy I mentioned earlier, he's one of them. And collectively, it's 100 years of technology company executive management experience, and this is hard to get in like a one-stop shop. So if you go to that link and you sign up for the cohorts, you'll be assigned a one-on-one consultant from this group, and they'll be able to you can ask them questions. They'll review the proposal for you. We don't actually write the proposal for you because by contract we cannot. But we can review it. We can give you tips and feedback about what we've seen be successful in the past, what we've seen not be successful in the past, and just really give you our best advice, our best feedback. We are not official Department of the Air Force personnel, so in order to get official guidance, you must go to the Department of Defense, which you can get through AFWERX, through Anissa's team, or just people who are working, actual government officials. We're not that, but we do work very closely with government officials. So we see ourselves as sort of saving you time in some situations. If we know the answer, we'll just get you the answer right away. And we, arguably probably are a little more responsive than some government personnel anyway. So we could be like your first stop. And then one of the good things about having the team of consultants is that if you ask me a question and I don't know it, I can go to this team, and likely one of us has seen that same situation happen before, or has come across that question in that problem, and we can get that answer for you. So just a really great resource for you. If you're interested in doing the program, then you can sign up for our cohort and you'll be assigned a one-on-one consultant. Okay, so this is the slide that I was talking to you about the Air Force and Space Force Tech Connect. This really is your one-stop shop for getting everything that you need from the, getting your hands in or getting your technology into the hands of the right point of contact. And you could spend 100 years doing this and spinning your wheels and still not find the right point of contact. But if you go to Air Force Tech Connect or Space Force Tech Connect, it's the same thing. If you just Google Air Force Tech Connect, it'll take you to one website. It's the same website for both services. But if you go there and you type in, spend 10 minutes typing a short synopsis of your technology and who you want to be connected with, then you will save yourself a lot of heartache and a lot of frustration in the long run, if you get somebody to respond to you and write back. So this should definitely be your one-stop shop for the, your front door essentially to the Air Force. Okay, so these are the slides, a little bit more about Apex. I don't want to dwell on these too much. I just want to let you know that this is a free resource that the Air Force has paid and sees value in. And so you hopefully will see value in it as well. But our entire job is to serve as a bridge between the organizations on the left with the organizations on the right. So we try to connect you to the right people in the Air Force. And this is what's meant by a Partnership Intermediary Agreement, a PIA. So we do various things within the Apex organization. Of course, we do outreach, which is here is labeled as discovery. So this would, count as outreach, but we outreach to all the universities across the country, as well as small businesses, and try to let them know this great program that the Air Force has and try to get them involved with it. I'm hoping through what I've said today that, and maybe with the research you do in the future on the AFWERX website and stuff, is that you'll see this is a good way to fund your research, right? Is it an NIH grant that's, $500K for 5 years? No, but it is a really great way to get some non-dilutive capital really quickly into your technology to develop it a little further. We also do, engagement, things like that. Process navigation, that's the consultants and the cohorts I mentioned to you a few slides ago. We do some SBIR training as well. So if you ever have any questions or you want us to come talk, do a presentation like this to anybody you want, we are happy to do that. We could do it specifically for your university if you want. We do that a lot, actually. So if that's the case and you wanted that, that's totally fine. We'll be happy to do that. You can just reach out to me to set that up and we'll get that going, no problem. And then the government contact and this tech transition bridge. This is a softer way of saying the valley of death. This is the way we like to term it, because we are hoping that we're not losing people off the cliff in the valley of death. We're hoping that we can help guide them from these mountains and valleys and these winding roads that you have to cross as an entrepreneur or as a university researcher who is developing technology that you want to see commercialized, to the end goal, which is a safe landing over at the government and commercial programs section of this graph. So we don't want to lose anybody on this bridge, because the Air Force is seeing value in your technology, right? If they are funding you at the phase 1 or the phase 2 level, they are essentially saying, this is valuable. We would like to see it continue to, to see where it goes. And we're going to keep funding it for the phase 1 and the phase 2 at the phase 2 level. Whether or not it's valuable enough to get to the phase 3 is a different story, but we hope that we are not, people are just not falling off the cliff when they get to phase 3. We're hoping that we can help bring as many people as possible over that bridge to win you long-term contracts and funding for your company and your research and your technology that you've spent a lot of time developing. Okay, this is the slide actually you already saw from ANISA in the very beginning, so I'm going to skip over, but we are a national program, which makes us different from other partnership intermediaries, because other partnership intermediaries are almost always focused on one region or one AFRL technical directorate or one organization within the Air Force. But we work with the entire Air Force and the entire Space Force, and we are a national PIA. So that makes us a little different from other PIAs. I think I already mentioned this. We do have different cohorts for various levels of the phases that you are seeking. So if you've never won an award before, you would join our pre-award cohort, and then if you've won phase 1, then you'll be post-award phase 1 cohort, and then if you won phase 2, it's post-award phase 2 cohort. For the contracting support cohort that's in there a little bit, it's not really an official cohort, so to speak. We just are able to offer you a little guidance for questions you ought to be asking your contracting officer. We are not contracting officers, so we don't know all of the answers and the rules and the regulations, but we do know we can give you an idea of what you should be asking so that you can get the contracting process started and have it be successful and actually, get through the contracting process and not burn out from all of the contractual details that you have to work out. So that's what we mean by contracting support. Okay, so this is one of the last slides. So thanks for sticking with me for such a long time. But here, these are some of the numbers that our process navigation team has accomplished. And this is from the team of 10 consultants that I was mentioning to you earlier. So we've made over 846 matchmaking connections. This number should be really, inspiring to you as the university researcher, so that when you're pulled in 1,000 different directions and you don't have time to go try to find a small business that's willing to partner with you to commercialize your technology, we totally understand that. We can do that for you. We have a matchmaking section on our website where university, it's usually the tech transfer office that will sign up, but sometimes it's individual PIs as well. So we'll have the research institute and we'll have a small business, and you can put in your information. And then, so if you are a research institute and you're looking for a small business, you can filter it to just show you the small businesses. And you can see if somebody is doing technology or research that you are involved in and you want to see if you can partner with them. Also, you can, if you're a small business, you can filter it to research universities and do that way. So that's one way to do the matchmaking. If you do that and you don't find anybody that you're interested in partnering with, then that's okay. You can let us know, and we can do a more manual, hands-on matchmaking process where we will go to our data analytics team and we'll say, we have this university that is looking for expertise in welding metal bolts to an airplane airframe or something like that, and we can get you specific companies and offer you them a few suggestions to try to matchmake that way. So but by far the easiest way to do it is just through our website that we host there. That's also at apex-innovates.org or apexinnovates-.org. I don't know. It's on the slide. I'm going to show you in a second so you can get it. And then we've helped 306 companies or university researchers win awards, which is great, and over $68 million in awards. So we're really proud of these numbers, and we think you should be too. And we think you should be. Hopefully will encourage you to sign up for one of the cohorts that we offer if you think that we could be of benefit and be of assistance to you through your SIPRCIT journey. Okay, so the website is apex-innovates.org. This is my email address. Chris Mather, I'm sure will put his email address in the chat as well if you need to contact either of us. We are happy to help at any time. And even if it's not an open solicitation, that's totally fine. You can still reach out to us and ask us questions. And we are here to help you, and we want to make you successful. So we work very hard to accomplish that goal. And I think now will be some time for Q&A. So I'm going to stop the share.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gilpin. I'll give folks a minute to put questions in the chat if they need to, or if you want to message admin, feel free to do that too, and we could put it in the chat. So, one of the things you mentioned was a cohort where you kind of really take a deep dive into the process. Is there an application or process for that, or is it generally open to everyone? Do you know?
Could you say that the first part again? I missed the first part. About the application for what?
You mentioned that you have a cohort of
Oh,
businesses that you work with.
yes.
Is there an application process or a time period for that?
Yes, yes. I'm sorry. I wasn't sure if you were talking about the application for the Silver Sitter program. That's my fault.
Okay.
Should have said that correctly.
Oh,
Um,
no problem.
so so yes, there is an application, but it's very, very simple. We ask that you fill in a form. It's on our website, and it just asks very basic information about your company, like your name and whoever we should be emailing information. Um, and then would we ask you to put in a few keywords for your technology area of focus, and that's that's essentially it. We ask a few other things, I think, but that's it's just very basic information that you should have on hand already anyway. And we have not turned away anybody yet. So I think if you apply, your chance of getting accepted is going to be really good. Maybe that will change in the future, if we are overwhelmed with applications. But right now, we are able to help on average 100. Well, it's like 100 to 110 companies every round. Because we have this team of 10 consultants, and we all double up and take multiple companies. And so we're able to help a lot of companies, and we have not had to turn anyone away. And when I say company, that goes for a university researcher as well. But usually it's the company who signs up for our cohorts, because they're the ones who have to do like the brunt of the work. They're the ones who really have to do the the DSIP portal and the submission process. And so the university professors get a little bit of reprieve from all of that, you know, um, minute detail stuff. And the companies will usually handle that. So we typically see more companies in our cohorts, in the lectures that we give, than the universities. But anybody's welcome. Anybody can sign up. So I would encourage you to do that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thanks so much for that.
Make
Um,
a quick comment on that.
go ahead, Chris.
As Kate mentioned on the slide from AFWorks, they probably going to announce the open topic solicitation sometime in early February. And as she also mentioned, they only give us 4 weeks to get it done, which is not enough time. So we have decided to generally start them earlier. So things that we know or think are not likely to change, we start to address in one-to-many sessions, not as much one-to-one before the solicitation opens. But so we'll probably start activities in mid-January for that. So if you're a spin out leader, or if you're in a small business, you probably want to be going to the Apex website and getting signed up under process navigation sometime around the first of the year.
Perfect. Perfect. So there are a couple of questions that were sent directly to the administrative chat group. So the first one is, can your political views affect funding? For example, if you have social media or controversial political posts on social media, is that something that can affect your proposal? Have
That's
you
a
seen any
really
in that area?
Yeah, that's a really great question in today's environment. So thank you for asking that. Um, I will give you twofold answer. The first part is that we have never seen anything be affected by that. But the second answer, the second part of the answer I will give you is, I think the answer is perhaps. Um, and but I don't think any contracting officer would seek that out, would search that out. So I mean, they just don't have time. It's not really their job. And nobody is really, um I would be, um I would be very surprised if a contracting officer looks up your social media. But that said, there are lots of situations when you're dealing with the military that you want to remain apolitical about. But it's a very tricky situation because you're a private citizen, so I will just keep it at that. We have not seen anything like that happen in the 3 years we've been around.
Okay, great. Perfect. Yeah, I think sometimes there's always the human factor that comes into, behind the keyboard. There's always, a human factor in there. So I guess you never know. Um, so the next question is, and I think when they're speaking of funding, they're talking about cyber sitter funding, but can funding be used for patents?
Yes, that we don't see that typically, but you could put that in your cost volume if you want. If you, I think that would be a little bit more applicable for a phase two if you are, developing your technology or maybe as you're transitioning from phase one to phase two. For phase one, you probably are not going to. I mean, unless you already have an established product. That's not really the purpose of the phase one. The phase one is customer discovery and feasibility. The purpose of the phase two, obviously, is to develop your product and come up with a prototype or demonstrate your technology in some way. So I think the patent is probably a little more applicable for the phase two. And the answer is yes. You would probably want to specify that in the cost volume. You'd want to say, I'm not even sure how much a patent costs, but you'd want to say like legal fees for patent, or it would all come under your indirect costs in your cost volume. So yes, you could do that. Yes.
Awesome. So I think do you have a hand up?
Hi, my name is Uttam Ghosh. I am from Mehari Medical College, and let me introduce our new school. So we have computer science, data science, just 3 years old, and we are offering MS and PhD, and also some certification program, especially in AI, machine learning, and also cybersecurity area. And we are also looking for collaboration with DoD or other consortium. So I was trying to join another consortium, MLCRP. So, but not sure how to join in that consortium.
Okay. The name of the consortium was MLCV. Is that what you said?
MLCRP.
MLCLV. Okay.
MLRCP.
Okay.
Yeah, MLRCP.
Okay. Okay. I am not familiar with that consortium, and I don't know the requirements to how to apply. But if you send me an email, I would be happy to look into that for you.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Sorry about that. I'm sorry I can't answer right now. But I definitely will get you an answer if you send me an email.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for that question. And we can kind of do some deep diving to see more about that. So, Dr. Gilpin, there's a question about the funding. So I know you mentioned you have to have an approved accounting system. Are there financial audits of your company organization during any of the phases or steps in the process?
Another great question. The answer is there certainly could be. I think that the number of audits for an SBIR STTR program is pretty small. I mean, it might be zero, but I can almost guarantee, and I'm not a contracting officer, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not giving you legal advice, but I can almost guarantee that the Air Force reserves the right to perform an audit on the money that they gave you. So they don't necessarily care about your company and how you run your company, right? That is your business, and it's your company, and the Air Force doesn't have a lot of invested interest in how you run your company. They do have an invested interest in how you spend the money they have given you. And so I think they definitely could audit you for that. But I have never seen that in my time. I'm gonna phone a friend here. And Chris, have you ever seen anybody get audited through the SBIR program for the money that the Air Force gave them?
No, I never have seen that at all. I will say that the chances in a phase 2 are much higher, and certainly it's a little more complex, but realize that at least in the open topic, it's a firm fixed contract. So the accounting is extremely simple. So we generally recommend that you just don't need government accounting types involved in a phase 1. When you start applying for phase 2, and if you get awarded it, you should probably at least start looking at it, because the goal for the Air Force, and the goal should be for the entrepreneur and the universities involved, is to get to a product that the Air Force can buy. And that could mean working with a prime contractor like a Raytheon or a Lockheed Martin, or it could mean working directly with the Air Force or another service. And you're going to start to need all that stuff anyway. So it's worth looking at going into phase 2. Getting a phase 1 and getting started in the program, it's just not even worth spending any time on, in our opinion. Over.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. I think I'm looking here. Oh, so the last question that I see. Does the government shutdown stop the funding for the
Oh,
program?
yeah, very, very appropriately timed question. So the answer is that the government gives you funding in segments. When you complete a deliverable, the government will pay you. So if you complete a deliverable on November 16th and the government shuts down on November 17th, you are very likely not going to get paid until the government reopens. But if you are on like a little bit of a different timeline and you completed a deliverable, you know, in October, and they pay you, then you're good to go for the next few months until you complete that next deliverable. And hopefully the government will be up and running. The government does take a long time to restart, right? I mean, you think that even if it's shut down for one day, it's going to be weeks before the government is fully up and running again, just the way that the systems work and the people work. And so so they will, so if you completed a deliverable on November 16th, the government shuts down on the 17th for 2 days, right? And it reopens, you will very likely be delayed in getting the payment. So you will eventually get it, but it's not going to be immediate. And the government payments are not immediate to begin with. Like nothing in the government is immediate. So there will always be a lag for when you submit your invoice to when the government pays you. And if the government shuts down and you're caught in this little, like finite window of time where you're supposed to be paid, but you're not, it will be delayed even further. But you will eventually get paid, but it's going to be delayed. So it doesn't stop your funding entirely, but it does stop it temporarily, and you'll get paid eventually.
Okay, great. So thank you so much for sharing all of the information. I know for those that have been here for a while and have been working with the SBIR program for a while, or for those of you that are new to the program, I know that it can seem, like a very daunting process at first, but just know a lot of this is to show that there are resources available to you to help kind of move the needle, make things a little bit easier for you. and identifying small business partners as well as our government partners within the force. And so that's what we're here for. And so thank you, Dr. Gilpin, for your knowledge and experience with that, and getting our HBCUs and MSIs and small businesses that are underserved to that next level. So appreciate you so much. Thanks for being here. And I think we'll close that out for questions for you today. We are going to take a short break for 10 minutes and start back up at 2:56, where we'll have Dr. Doswell, who's the founder and owner and CEO of Juxtopia, a biomedical information technology company, and just a wealth of information and success stories in working his CyberCity experience firsthand. So thank you, Dr. Gilpin. Any last closing words before you go?
No, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been great. I really appreciate it. And if anybody ever needs anything from Apex, just reach out.
Yes, absolutely. Apex has been a great resource for us throughout the program. So I really appreciate everything that you all have done and continue to do. So thank you. Have a great afternoon. We'll be back,
too.
meet back here for 2:56 all. Thank you.
Hello, this is Chris. Everyone is in the waiting room.
Hello.
Hello, Chris.
Excellent presentation. How are you feeling?
I am doing great. How are you? I see
Good.
Dr. Doswell join, or no, maybe not.
He is. I'm bringing him in right now.
Okay.
Hello, Dr. Doswell. How are you, sir?
Doing well. How are you doing?
Great. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining
Welcome.
us.
Thank you.
Nice to see you again. We're going
You
to
too.
get started.
Find a white shirt that I've been lifting weights. So all my shirts, I can't even do the top button. It's
Okay, I hear you. I hear the humble brag. Okay, we'll oh, I'm glad you found one. I'm glad you found one that works.
So if I